So why radio? Well, radio, first of all, is a very cost-effective media to reach masses, huge audiences. As you can see, radio anywhere and any time medium. It's highly targeted. So like Lucy said, you can specifically be known within a specific program or day part. And you gotta have the right frequency there, and radio does provide that opportunity. It cuts through. It's flexible and immediate, as you just saw then. And like Kel mentioned, it is the pulse of the community, and particularly much so at Positive Media. That is really what we do, we live by. Next. So who is Positive Media? Just give you a little bit of a background of who we are. We are Australia's largest community broadcaster. And as such, we have Australia's most trusted radio station, and that is our flagship brand, 89.9 The Light. We are defined by our uplifting content. So we will be known moving forward in 2021 as positive radio. And because that is, we are positively impacting the personal journey of our listeners, just as the team mentioned. So what is very unique about us? So within, Lucy and Kel mentioned about the environment. I like to point out the differences too between community radio and commercial radio. We provide you with an exclusive audience that cannot be reached with commercial radio. So there is a large number of people that only specifically will listen to community radio stations, but still have, that buying power and the key decision makers. We provide you with a very uncluttered space. With community radio stations, we only allowed to have 5 minutes of sponsored content per hour. So what that means to you is that you will always be a first or last in break position, which is much better than being, number 7 within 15 ads running in a row. And we are 100% safe, and we provide that family environment. So in terms of reach, so when you're looking at radio or any advertising, when you're putting your campaigns together, it's important, obviously, to know who your audience is and where they're at and how you're going to reach them. So there's a map of Australia there. We have a network of stations right across Australia. So in total, we have 700 plus radio frequencies, and we can help you put together a campaign, metro or regional or only within Victoria. We also do provide a syndicated offer. And what that means is you get to buy one spot, for example, but that one spot will be played across 22 markets, and you're only paying for one spot rate. So it's very cost effective as well if you do require those markets. And obviously everything's digital as well. We play in that space very comfortably. So we also offer reach in audio and digital land. With 89.9 The Light being our flagship brand, we actually reach 1.2 million monthly Melbourne listeners. As you can see, Lucy and Kel are our key personas. But with our message, with the content that we produce, we amplify this by multi-platform delivery. So we are just like the commercial radio stations. You will be able to find and tune in to The Light on your phone, on your computer, Google Home, Alexa, we're there. We also do provide that digital audience extension across the web and social channels. So, so what that means is, so say you are on the radio, people are listening to your ad in the car, but at the same time, through our Rich List offer, you will be able to target that very specific audience that is listening to your message on digital as well, wherever they go on the internet, and also on social media channels like Facebook and Instagram. So a little bit more about our listeners. Okay, so we do definitely tap into the family audience, but let's dive deeper. We do go to the decision maker, and that is, we have a female skew when it comes to our audience. and we're very strong within the age group 25 to 54 segment, which again are key decision makers, and this is where the majority of the first home buyers are at. Now, when it comes to our listeners, we index a lot higher in terms of how they trust sponsored messages. So when we did our survey, 84% of our listeners trust station sponsors, and 75% of our listeners are likely to respond to a sponsor's message. So that's highly beneficial for you as a business, because make sure that your advertising dollars are really working for you. So who is really our audience? And Peter was talking about those emotional pools and connections. So it's great when you're putting together your message and your media plan. You're looking at your audience, your target audience. So now you know what the media is, or the opportunity, be that radio, our station, but then who is our audience, so that you can really start to create those bonds. So we call our key target audience Jess, and this is what really drives Jess. So what is she's influenced by? Well, one of those key attributes there is she's influenced by family. So if you are looking at first home buyers market, you're looking at female audience, and your product needs to be connected with that, then we have this audience, so Jess. So she's also looking for balance, making the world a better place, relationships. So the more you understand this, the more you can actually make your message work harder for you. Her interests are that she's really wanting to be enough. She wants to have some me time. She's interested about her children, good information, and lifestyle and health. And when I say good information, she is an influencer. She's not only a decision maker, she's also an influencer. So she's always looking for good information, because she's a sharer. She loves to then go to her groups, her mom groups, or her friends, and say, I heard this information on the light. And we've actually had some advertisers actually share that with us, that feedback. And some of her attributes there is that she's a caregiver, she's determined, she's conflicted, optimistic, and a worker. So family, and she's looking for really good connections and very good information. Next. So we encourage you, or invite you, to market within our trusting community. You met Lucy and Cal and Joe and Cam. Our next lineup is the Drive team with Luke and Susie right there. So these are different presenters that really do engage quite well with our audience. Next. So Lucy talked about breakfast being, one of the key programs in radio. So I wanted to show you here the average audience across all of our day parts, because this is a really good thing for you to understand when you're putting together your strategy or your planning with radio. So you will see that breakfast is quite high, 19%, and obviously drive to 22%. But we also do have the 9 news at 28%, and morning and afternoon, evening and mid-dawn. This makes up the rest of the programs there. So one of the strategies that you might want to take is to dominate a day part and be really well known and establish the connection and a bond with that specific audience in that very specific day part, if your target audience fits exactly that, that opportunity there. Or you might want to do something where you place your ad throughout the program, and what that's called is a run on station. So we randomly place your ad anywhere throughout the day. So you might be in breakfast, the next day you might be in drive, the day after you might be in 9 news, and we place that for you. But if you're wanting to tap a little bit more into the male audience, well, the opportunity is there for you to do that through the 9 news. And at Positive Media, we have an exclusive partnership with Channel 9 News, which are the most trusted TV news. And that's an exclusively a nightly simulcast that you'll hear on 89.9 The Light. Next. So just taking you back here to Peter's presentation, where he spoke about thinking about your product, your target audience, and the message that you're going to deliver out in the market, and being able to place that within the right environment, in the right program, to stimulate that memory being formed for your brand or for your message. So we want to be very strategic and, you know, plan for recognition. So strengthening your message association with families and females, and weaken your competition over time. Now, the first home buyers market, as Peter mentioned, are more receptive to advertising. He said it was about 24% more receptive. But in fact, generally, our listeners are overall more receptive to sponsored messages than commercial radio listeners. So they are already receptive on this environment. And if your message is there consistently and you have the right frequency and you're tapping specifically into the first home buyers market, then the percentages will be a lot higher in response to that audience reaching out to you for your products and services. Next. So how can you use radio? So you can use radio to build the brand. So again, one of the things that Peter mentioned, there is a journey when it comes to first home buyers market. So there are brand opportunities along the journey. It is a slow process as they move down this, you know, through this journey of buying their first homes, the pre, the purchase, and the post. So if you really want to be in that space, or, you know, when you're building your brand, you need to really think about long term. You really need to think about building your brand gradually over time. So one of the things that you really need to be mindful of is obviously the reach. You know, you want to identify your target audience and be very selective. You can't just reach everyone because obviously advertising budgets are limited. You want to be able to have the right frequency because frequency sells. But again, you want to be consistent and build trust over time. So some people have asked us, well, how can you best help us with this? We actually do provide or have an annual branding plan. And we have one that's starting at 1,318 plus GST per month. So if you're looking to building your brand, this is really where you'll be starting at. And, you know, you really need to be committed to be able to invest at least this amount of dollars every month, ongoing and long term, to be able to do that. Next. Radio can also be used to call your target or your customers to take action. So call listeners to take action close to a purchase. You might have a sale or an event, and you could do that through 30 seconds, live reads, and the digital rich list opportunity. There's also an opportunity for you to do a short burst of advertising. So by sponsoring the news or weather spots with 10-second messages. And I'm very excited about this because as we are moving out of lockdown, looking at 2021, we will actually be able to begin this again and really help brands, you know, customers really get a lot more by doing live broadcasts. So that means is that we go to your location, we run a live broadcast so that you can have a higher customer involvement. So that might be a promotion or sampling at your site. And these are quite effective when you're looking for that strong call to action. And the strategy here is a high frequency. Next. So Peter talked about the emotional territory and emotional triggers. And this comes down to your messaging. What at the end of the day, what are people going to hear? So intensify your brand's message emotionally, contextually within our radio environment. We help you actually deliver a simple yet powerful message. We do provide you with top produced messages with production services so that you'll be remembered well. And you also do have the opportunity to invest a lot more in your message. You saw the two examples there with the food company and Samsung. They actually do invest a lot in their creative, and you can do the same to, again, a further investment on your production, that be your a specific sound or a jingle for your brand. So how much does radio cost? Well, depending upon the frequency of the ad broadcast at the time of day that the announcement runs. So yes, 9 News, you saw they had the highest number of people tuning into that program. So therefore, you will be expected, obviously, to invest a little bit more. And depending, obviously, on how much your ad is going to be heard during a specific period of time, that will determine the investment. And production costs, in addition to spot expenditure, is also expected. So you need to consider those two things. So how do you get the radio resource advantage? Well, definitely we want to schedule a needs analysis session with one of your business development executives, where we'll have the opportunity to discuss with you about your business, your requirements, and then we would review, if radio is really the right fit and what are the potential opportunities for your business, be that branding, call to action, or a combination of that. So let's seize the day, and thank you so much today.